All right, we're back on the record at our special meeting, public hearing dated June 15th, 2016. Basically, just an overview. Back in August of 2014, when Judge Caraway was the county judge, there was a complaint made by one or more occupants of the courthouse annex building regarding mold. Judge Caraway ordered a study, an air quality study, and anytime I get anything wrong, I'm very fine with being corrected by anybody that is here in the audience that knows what all has taken place, or anyone at the bench here as well. Air quality study was performed. It was determined that there were high levels of mold spores, and it's not the black mold type mold that would cause serious health issues, but there was enough of the and I don't remember the types of mold. I know one of them is penicillin, and there's another. The one that is the worst is Stachybotrys, and there's none of that found anywhere in any of the annex building that's being occupied at this time, or that it was even occupied at that time. But it was recommended by the company that we relocate or remove the crime victims office and the WIC office from their locations due to the high level of mold spores found in that area. And at that time, I believe Judge Caraway talked to Tasha and Valerie regarding that recommendation that was made, and they immediately removed themselves from the areas. And at this time, the WIC office still remains displaced. The crime victims has moved back into their location, and we'll talk about that later. Judge Caraway appointed a committee. I served on the committee, as well as Commissioner Cooper, Commissioner Pelt, and Jackie Ellis, and I believe that consisted of the committee. I know Misty sat in on that some as well. And from there, we tried to determine the best method to rid the building of mold and make it safe for not only the employees but the citizens that come to the courthouse annex building for services that are provided there. Basically, we also got a second opinion on the air quality in the building from a different vendor. We also met with local construction and mold remediation companies, and a mechanical engineer was also involved regarding what needed to happen so that after the mold remediation was completed, we wanted to make sure that the building was fixed so that there were no more problems with mold going forward after the problem was corrected. Long story short, it was going to cost quite a bit of money for the mold remediation, because not only is that expensive, but there's asbestos in the building that would have to be abated as part of the mold remediation project. And the estimate that we received to do that work was nearly $500,000. It's $450,000 to $500,000. Then that's going to require a remodel and repairs to the building after the mold remediation is completed, because there's going to have to be walls taken out, floors taken out, ceilings taken out. Quite a bit of removal was going to have to take place for the mold remediation and asbestos abatement part of the project. We received a budgetary estimate of $650,000 to $700,000 to perform the remodel and other related repairs to the remediated and abated areas. Then the mechanical engineer recommended that we replace because the source of the mold over there, the main source of the mold, happens to be the two-pipe, as it's been termed to me, the two-pipe heating and AC system that's in the building at this time. I think that is the original heating and AC that was installed in the building in 1954. There's been add-on to that building, so not all of the building is supplied or heated and cooled by that type of system. The areas in on the front, if you're looking at the building, front left-hand side, have a central heat and air system, and there were no mold problems found in that area, which is the cafeteria, the extension office, and the HUD office, those areas of the building. To replace the existing system with a similar HVAC system, the estimate we received on that was between $420,000 to $780,000. However, there was an option that was presented to us to replace that system with an electrical heating and air conditioning system, and that estimate came in at $100,000 to $150,000. So the total estimate at that time, at the end of 2014, to remediate, asbestos abatement, I guess remediate, abate, and then remodel and repair and replace the heating and air conditioning system was between 1.64 million and 2.05 million. It was determined by the committee that we could build a new building for that amount of money, and that recommendation was made to the Commissioners Court at that time to possibly look into pricing to build a new building. The building we have over there is somewhere in the neighborhood of 35,000 to 40,000 square feet. We don't need that much space. That's an old hospital that's been turned into office spaces and storage spaces for the services that are provided there, and storage for all of the county facilities. And we just felt like it would be a better option to build a new building, and I'll build a separate new storage building just for storage. That would serve the employees and the public much better than the facility that we have now. And I just felt like, and so did the rest of the committee, and I believe it was unanimous on the court at that time, that it would be a waste of money, taxpayer dollars, to spend nearly $2 million on a 1954 building that has several other issues besides the ones that are addressed by that report. So the decision was made by Commissioners Court to proceed with obtaining an architect and also a construction manager at risk. Those have been chosen. We have estimates to build a new building at approximately 10,000 square feet. Commissioner, and I was removed from the committee whenever I was sworn in as your county judge January the 1st. And since then, Commissioner Cooper is the overseer of the project, and he's been dealing directly with Lavish Architectural Firm is the firm that was selected as the architect, and Daniels Building and Construction was selected as the construction manager at risk. We have an estimate to build the new building at between $1.7 and $1.8 million. That is just construction cost alone. That does not include the cost of the land, which the county has already acquired. That does not include any new furniture or anything like that. That is just the building. And it has been determined by this Commissioner's Court that, well, let me back up a little further. The Crime Victims Office has moved back in. As of January 2015, Valerie Davis, the Director of Crime Victims, came to me and told me that she felt like with some cleaning of that area, that her office could move back into the area and at least give it a try. I have received 2 complaints from her since then that there were some problems. We did some cleaning, and everybody in the office has been told that at any time they felt like it was unsafe to be there, to please let me know when we relocate them, and that has not happened. Tasha, you're, I think, occupying the hallway and a couple of other vacant office spaces. Monica has moved the JJAEP school from over there to the 3rd floor of the courthouse to give some extra room that you are also occupying as well. One thing I haven't mentioned, DPS, their driver's license office, their legal people said we're pulling our people out of there, and they've not allowed them to come back since, even though the studies that have been performed, we've conducted studies since then that says that area is completely fine, but I do understand their concern, and they have not allowed their people to come back to the building. So since somewhere around November of 2014, we've not had a driver's license office in Hardin County, and that is a service that is definitely needed. So we've gotten construction costs to build a new building at between 1.7 and 1.8. This Commissioners Court has decided to proceed with that project, and the means by which to pay for that project, we had some options. We've gone out for grants. We've applied for grants. We've sought grants. We're still continuing to seek grants to help pay for the project. At this time, there are no grants available to pay for any part of the project, and but we will continue to explore that option. At this time, the decision has been made to finance $1.1 million of the project, and the decision was made by the Commissioners Court by a majority vote to do that through certificates of obligation. We've had meetings. I think most of you have been present for those meetings that we've had with Mr. Goodson and Mr. Gilley. That is our bond counsel and our financial advisor. And recommendation by the court is to proceed with the $1.1 million certificates of obligation, pay for the remainder of the project using funds that are surplus. We have about $3.9 million in surplus funds at this time, and basically we would commit roughly $800,000, give or take, of surplus funds to pay for the balance of the project that's not financed. As far as furniture and fixtures go, that's been discussed. Most of the offices over there have good furniture. They have file cabinets, desks, chairs, and everything that they need to move into the new building. There may be a few things needed for some of the offices. Some things are going to have to be gotten rid of because they have big space now and they're going to be going to a little smaller space. But that's all been discussed. Everybody's aware, and I think they're just ready for the new building to be built and get moved into it so they can get settled and provide the services that they provide to the citizens of Hardin County. There will probably need to be some chairs purchased for the foyer when you first walk in. There's a waiting area. The amount of furniture cost is going to be minimal. The health department has some grant money. They're going to buy some furniture with grant money to furnish the EOC, and the EOC will serve most of the time as a meeting room. It's a general area that everybody in the building can use. We'll have somebody that schedules the use of that room for meetings. I think that this court, and I'm not bragging on myself, but I think the committee, this court, and then Commissioner Cooper as the project manager for this project has done an excellent job of trying to do our very best to ensure that this building meets but does not exceed the needs of the employees and the citizens. We've done our very best to try to pay for it through grant funds. That hasn't been successful, and it's past time to move on with the construction of the building, and I think that it's time to start that, barring any opposition to the certificates of obligation. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Cooper, and I'm going to give each commissioner an opportunity to speak in any manner that they would like regarding the project. But as the project manager, I'd like for him to fill in any blanks that I might have left and anything else that he may like to add to the comments.
Thank you, Judge. And you've done a very good job of explaining all that. I'm interested in going back on YouTube and seeing if I can correct him on anything.
I'm sure you will.
Anyway, this has been a long, drawn-out process. And in the beginning, I'm sure the other commissioners will comment on their feelings on this as well. In the beginning, when it come to financing, I was behind going to the voters to get this approved as far as a bond election. Once we had our outside audit and we found out that we had more money available to us, I was comfortable and satisfied in going with the decision that the court went on financing half of it and paying for half of it. So I'm very satisfied with the results of that. I can say this too, Mr. Pelt is of course, the senior commissioner up here, and he knows a lot more about the history of this court than I do. But if you look back on the history, not only this current court, but the entire Commissioner's Court of Hardin County, and just take, for instance, any major decisions that the commissioners have made, you're normally not going to get, everybody in agreement. But I think the results of the decisions that the court has made in the past, just using, for example, the dump out here, I mean, that was a major decision to sell that, and that the proceeds out of that allowed this county to get out of debt. Not out of debt, but allowed them to put money into contingency and start our contingency. I still hear people say in the community that they would prefer to have a place to dump their garbage or whatever for free, but looking back on the history of that, I think the court made a great decision in that area and other areas, and like I say, it's not going to be a unanimous decision, but once the court decides to go in a certain direction and all commissioners get on board with it, I think that the history of this court will show that the right decisions were made and we need to move forward. I'm looking forward to working with, and I have been working with LaBeach and Daniels, but now that we have all this finalized and we have our next public hearing on the 20th, we can move forward with this. Any county employees that has any questions or needs anything, feel free to give me a call. I'm sure all of you have my cell phone number. I'm going to look forward to working with the judge on this, and he stays on top of things. He likes a lot of emails. I don't like a lot of emails, but I think that this is going to be a successful project.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooper. Commissioner Kirkendall, do you have any comments?
I do. I was a lone holdout on the certificate of obligation simply because I gave my word to some folks that I would allow them the opportunity to vote on a bond. But in saying that, it's been a 2-year process. It's been very well thought out. I don't think the court has rushed to anything speedily. We've, with much conversation, many talks, during Commissioner's Court, you know, we've moved through this process. I don't think we could get a better deal. I think the time to build is really a good timing. And what I've told people is that I voted against the certificate, but not against the process and the success of where we're at, simply because I gave people my word. If we could just let the community know it's 1/10 of 1 cent increase to pay for the certificates. So 1/10 of 1 cent, that's pretty affordable and pretty cheap. You know, spending public funds and having the public's trust is important to all of us. We've all had lunch together at some point in time over the last few years, and you know, the sincerity of what we do and how we do it is important to us. And saying that, you know, we're replacing a 60-year-old building through a 2-year process, and I don't think the county and its citizens could get a better deal than what we're getting right now. I commend Judge McDaniel on his leadership in this process, in the sense that it has been 2 years. And if you're married, you can't even put off a project for 2 years with your spouse, much less in a commissioner's court. And so I commend all the court for all the work we've done. And so, you know, just voice my support that financially and through moving forward, I don't think we could have got a better deal. And everybody's worked really hard. Appreciate Nubbin giving his time of meeting with people, meeting with committees, and putting it together. And you know, when you're looking at a floor plan, trying to satisfy a lot of departments, that's a big load. And also for everybody who's worked, appreciate Commissioner Pelt serving on the committee, and just to let the people know that I do support building the annex. I'd given my word to people that I would allow them to vote on the bond issue. So that's the reason that I was a lone holdout, but I support the project. I think we couldn't have gotten a better deal.
Thank you, Commissioner Kirkendall.
Yes, sir.
During your comments there, I thought of something that Commissioner Cooper's gonna hit me on later when he looks at the YouTube video, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna take a moment to talk about the financing. We currently have, the county currently has a certificate of obligation outstanding from the jail expansion project. I believe that's a 2007 certificate. Project was completed in 2009, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it pays off in 2023. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Angela.
2023.
I didn't want to ask Angela because she did not want me to ask her that. But I do appreciate that. The majority of the payoff on the annex project will come after the jail project is over with. So the certificates have been structured in a way that, as Commissioner Kirkendall spoke, it's 1/10 of 1 cent that the increase, that will be the increase on our debt. So 1/10 of 1 cent is how much people's taxes could go up. However, I feel very certain that we'll be able to absorb that in our current tax rate, and I don't think that the taxes will go up any, at least for the next year or two. Nobody knows what is gonna happen after that. And that doesn't matter whether we do this project or not. Nobody knows what's gonna happen with our economy, with our revenue, anything like that after the next year or two. So I just wanted to say that. Once the certificates of obligation for the jail project are paid off in 2023, that's where this project really picks up. However, our note goes down for those next few years to pay off this project. And it is a 10-year certificate of obligation that we decided on, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
See, I'm gonna look before I answer.
Well, I just wanna be sure. And, so now, unless Commissioner Pelt or Commissioner Roberts say anything that jar my memory, to make sure Commissioner Cooper doesn't hit me with it later. Commissioner Pelt, I'd like for you to make any comments.
I would just like to say that I'd like to reiterate what Commissioner Cooper said. Judge has done an excellent job, not only of working on this project before he was judge, but also here today explaining this project. I thought he's done an excellent job, and I commend him. I commend Commissioner Cooper for working with the architect and with Daniels to get the floor plan that you see and the people that will be occupying this and holding this to the footage that is held at, so that we get the cost down. And I agree with every comment that's been made. I've been mentally trying to make a note of what was said so I wouldn't go back and replow the same ground. The only thing that I would like to comment on is that in this process, we have actually had 6 public meetings and told the public, invited the public. We had one in Saratoga, one in Sour Lake, one in Pinewood, one in Coontz, one in Lumberton, one in Silsby, I believe.
Yes, sir.
And so we have done everything that we could to let the public know what we intended to do and how we intended to do it. And I know in the 3 that I conducted or helped conduct, it has been 100% favorable to proceed with this project. In fact, a lot of the public, especially like in Pinewood, where they don't use services that are in this building that much, they were the strongest supporter. They couldn't see why we just didn't go ahead and get it done. And so I've been very pleased at the response of the public, and I think the fact that there's no outside public here today lets us know that basically the public does not have a real concern about the way we're financing this building or that we're going to build it. And I think this building will be a great asset to this community. I think it will allow us to serve the public better than we're serving them now, and better than we were able to service them from the old annex, which if you spent much time in there, you realize it was a hodgepodge of offices. It was difficult for people to find where they needed to go. It was not ever designed for that purpose, but the county used it because it was 43,000 square feet of space that we owned. And but this court has been very judicious, as Nubbin said, in managing county money, selling of that landfill, which was a very unpopular at the time, got this county out of a negative situation of not having any any working capital, what I call working capital or surplus funds or whatever you want to call it, and started us on the road to building a contingency fund or surplus or whatever we want to use the term, savings, and got this court started on the right path. And if you look at the debt load of this county as opposed to other counties and opposed to other government entities in Hardin County, this county carries a very low debt burden, and that's the way I think this court likes it. But this is a very worthy project. I commend everyone involved for their support and look forward to getting it built as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Pelt, and I want to thank you as well for serving on the committee in the beginning and all of the valuable advice that you've given throughout the project. Not that I don't appreciate Commissioner Kirkendall's as well. Everybody's been very helpful, and I have not done this by myself. Commissioner Cooper hasn't either. He's worked with each of the department heads at the annex building, and everybody's had their input. So I'll try to quit adding stuff. Commissioner Roberts, you have any comments?
Well, that's the best part about being the last one in this group. They've all said exactly what I would have said, so I get to reiterate. I think it was very judiciously looked at, and we looked at all the ways we could have gone about doing it, and arrived at this point. Like I said, I'm not going to reiterate anything that the other commissioners of the judges said because it's exactly the way I feel. We had our public meeting. The one I had was Judge McDaniel and I in Lumberton. Same thing. The constituents that came to the meeting were very, very, very much in favor of doing this, and so just like I said, we're not having any public come up there and say don't do it or jumping up and down. So I think that's a really positive note for us, and that's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Roberts. Ms. Gore, would you like to say anything?
No,
I
I think
just
y'all
wanted to give you the
covered it all.
opportunity. I did not want you to say later. He didn't even give me an opportunity to say anything.
I think y'all covered everything.
Thank you. Ms. Austin, you have anything? Anybody in the audience? We have some people in the audience. They're all, not all of them. This group over here are county employees, and 4 of them work in the annex building. 3 of them, I'm sorry, work in the annex building, and I would really like, if you have anything to say, to give you the opportunity to come up and make any comments that you'd like to make. And if you don't, that's fine, but if you do, well, come on up, Ms. Linda.
I don't need to.
That's fine.
Hear me. I just appreciate, and I think all of us do, how much, no one knows what goes on in every office in this county. They don't know what goes on behind the scenes and how much work and effort and true desire in your heart to do the different opinions, you had professional opinions come in. How many people did Commissioner Pell, Commissioner Cooper, yourself, all of y'all talk to try to determine what was the best way and the most cost-effective way also to deal with this, keeping in mind that it needed to be done, but it needed to be done in the right way, and I think y'all have done that. And we thank y'all, we very much know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gosh, there you go, all of us, we just really appreciate what y'all have done.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Monica? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to add that with Linda, that I applaud the Commissioner's Court and County Judge for taking every department head that was either over there or ourselves included, because we had an office over there or a school over there, that you took us into consideration and pretty much talked to everybody individual and a group. So I appreciate that.
Very welcome. Thank you. Mr. Elizondo, any questions? Ms. Brooks? Anyone else have any questions or comments or any concerns? Yes, sir, Mr. Bethea? Yes, sir.
Dan Bethea, I'm here, two hats,
Yes, sir.
citizen, energy. So let me see, let me start with energy, and then I'll take that hat off. If you go ahead with the building, we'd like to be involved to make sure that it's as energy efficient as possible. And if there are any incentives for maybe changing lighting or air conditioning, heating equipment, upgrading the energy efficiency ratios on it, like to be involved and help y'all with that. It may not be but $1, but it might be more, so we'd like.
Every
to take
dollar
that
adds up.
opportunity
Thank
to
you.
help y'all with that.
If I can comment right quick on that, Mr. Bethea, I met with the architect last week along with Cody with Daniels.
Okay,
That subject came up. I will get with you
okay,
and get you their information. I'll do the same with them. I'll provide your information to them so that y'all can get together. But that issue did come up on that. So.
and I'll get with Mike Martinez, who works for our contractor, our energy efficiency contractor, and we'll take a look at the plans and move forward and see if there's anything we can suggest that might make a difference.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll take that hat off, and I apologize. Judge, commissioners, I think y'all done a wonderful job. My concern, and I know y'all probably have addressed this in the past, but I'll ask again because my memory is like a sieve. And two things, I guess my concern going forward is making sure that we do not let our county buildings get in the condition of the building that y'all basically adopted. Obviously it was built as a hospital, it wasn't built as a county building. But what are we gonna do with the old building? And have we made plans? If you tear it down, you're gonna have to do some remediation, obviously, and those expenses, whether you're going back in the building or you're tearing it down, could be expensive. So have we got a game plan for disposing of that building?
We have,
at some point?
I think I've discussed this with Commissioner Cooper or Commissioner Pelt. We've not discussed this as a court as far as what to do with the building. There's certainly a few different options. I'll just put this out that my goal would be to sell it. My goal would be to sell the building and the property. And of course, it's not going to be very marketable because of the condition that it's in and the problems that it has. But my opinion is if we sold it for a low amount of money, we'd get rid of having to destroy and abate, asbestos abatement and what have you, all that goes along with demolishing that building. That's any other commissioners?
That's a concern that I've heard from citizens as well, Ms. Bethea, and it's a important concern. My personal opinion as a commissioner is I wouldn't want to see the county utilize that building in any way whatsoever. So we're gonna have to do something with it, and it's gonna be cost. It's gonna cost us to do that. So along with the judge, that would be the best scenario that I see is to sell that building. But it is a great concern. I wouldn't want the county to invest any more money in it or to utilize that building in any way whatsoever once we get all of our personnel out of there. So something's gonna have to be done. We don't have a concrete plan in place for that. So.
I'd be open to donating it to Entergy.
Second? to add to what Commissioner Cooper said, if we're not able to move the building in any way, then the option is gonna be to board it up. I would not like to see it sit there for many years, but as soon as we are able to pay to demolish the building, that would be my goal. And hopefully within that amount of time, maybe somebody comes along and decides they do want it for, little or nothing. And I would be open to that. Of course, it would be up to the court. Anyone else have any comments regarding the old building?
Yeah, we have had discussions on it, and we haven't developed a plan, but we will. And I think that we'll start with a logical step. We'll start to see if we can sell the building and the property at an advantage to the county. We'll get an estimate of what it would cost to tear that building down and abate it, so we'll know what a fair price to sell it would be. If we cannot get a price that the county could accept, then I think we'll be looking at trying to sell the building to be demolished in place, and whoever demolished it get the value, whatever value is in the building. And we'll just keep working on down from there, what it costs to get rid of that building. If that building were off that piece of property and that piece of property were clear, then the piece of property would have certainly a value to it. It might even have a value to the county somewhere in the future as this county grows for a justice center or something like that. But as we do on every issue, this court will develop a plan. It'll be well thought out, and what's in the best advantage of the taxpayers, short-term and long-term.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. Anything? Any other questions? Mr. Elizondo?
The land that the annex is gonna be built on?
Yes, sir.
County owned most of that, is that correct?
Yes, sir, and during this process, we've also acquired 2 lots over there that, to make sure that we have plenty of room for the building, and we actually don't have plenty of room, but we have just enough room for the building after the setback lines and what have you are taken into determination. And I will be placing on the next Commissioners Court agenda to obtain the rest of the property adjacent to the 2 lots that we purchased. We put some money in the budget to do that, and I'm gonna ask the court to approve that we move forward with acquiring that land. This building is designed in a way that it can be added onto in the future as needed, and but in order to do that, we're gonna need the additional land to be able to do it. But at this time, we have the parking area already. The parking lot probably needs to be resurfaced maybe, or do a little work to it. But we do have the land that we need, and we do have a plan to acquire the land next to it so that we can add onto the building in the future as needed. Very good question.
How much were the 2 lots that the county purchased?
I think they were $12,500 apiece.
Okay.
And closing cost was, taxes and what have you, was a little $830.
I think that amount was correct, but an important note on that, Daniel, to me is we got those lots for the same amount the county got a lot 8 years ago.
We bought
Same
several
price.
lots, yeah.
Right across here.
And
I
it was
think
in
we got a great
2006 or
deal
2007 that we bought those others.
How big is that area total, once you acquire the rest of the land? How much land is gonna be there to build this? Do you have an estimate on that?
We have don't have the actual dimensions, but we do have a drawing that we got from Misty.
We're
Do
currently,
you have the dimensions?
I do not have them with me, Daniel, but we're currently in a survey right now
Okay.
through the process that is gonna get us the whole dimensions on there. I don't have it, but
Jimmy might be able to answer that. There's an additional, 5 lots that we were trying to obtain, or 4?
I think there's 4 lots remaining. The Wardens have 2 lots where the plumbing place is, that
Yes,
are
sir.
right along the railroad track, and directly south of that are 2 lots that are the Donaldson lots. Were Hook's lots, and Donaldson lots. Y'all have most of the block anyway.
But those lots are what, 75 feet each in width?
I think they're 33 and a third, yeah, two together be about 66 feet wide, and.
Okay, so we're talking about acquiring something like a, we're talking about acquiring something like 150 feet by 400 or 300. We're talking about acquiring essentially an additional acre
Yeah.
to go with what we already have, yeah. Which would take us all the way to the street that the First Baptist Church fronts on.
Basically be that whole block right there, correct?
Yes. Do we have any other questions or comments?
If not, I move we adjourn. We've got a conference call here in a few minutes with
Second.
GLO.
Have a motion by Commissioner Pelt and a second by Commissioner Kirkendall. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
Judge, you did a great job. Great job.
Now if I can do it again Monday.
You'll be able to do it Monday.
I just play this back.